in the arid caves of the Judean desert, a discovery that defies explanation. Not ancient scriptures or prophetic texts, but a map to unimaginable wealth, etched in metal, shrouded in mystery. Welcome to the enigma of the Copper Scroll. This is Tom McKenzie, and you are listening to Unexplained History. If you are enjoying this show, make sure to subscribe on all major platforms like Apple, Spotify, and Spreaker. And if you want more unexplained content, swing by our website at unexplained.co. Imagine stumbling into a forgotten cave, the air thick with dust and centuries of silence, your flashlight catching a glint of metal amid the shadows. That's how it began in 1952, near the ruins of Qumran by the Dead Sea. Archaeologists unearthed not papyrus or leather scrolls, but a rolled sheet of copper, oxidized green, tough as the desert itself. This was no ordinary artifact. It was engraved with a list of hidden treasures, a cryptic inventory promising riches beyond comprehension. The scroll detailed 64 locations, each hiding tons of gold and silver, vessels from the ancient temple in Jerusalem. This is the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable. If real, it points to a lost fortune worth billions today. The copper's surface bears chisel marks, deliberate and precise, written in a mishmash of Hebrew letters, some reversed, others in code. Unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, religious texts like Isaiah or community rules from the Essenes, this one reads like a treasure map from a forgotten era. Dust clings to every groove as translators pore over it in dimly lit labs, the metallic tang in the air mixing with the scent of aged paper. One entry describes 900 talents of gold buried beneath a staircase in the temple court, a staggering amount equivalent to over 60 tons. Feel the weight of that secrecy. The scroll was hammered thin, rolled tight, and hidden away, as if its creators knew the dangers of revelation. Decades of expeditions have scoured the wadis and ruins, from Jericho to the Valley of Achor, guided by clues like, "In the ruin which is in the valley, pass under the steps leading to the east 40 cubits." Yet nothing has been found. No gold ingots, no silver bars, no sacred artifacts. The dry wind whispers through empty caves, carrying echoes of frustration from treasure hunters and academics alike. Named persons like John Allegro, who first unrolled the scroll in 1956 using a saw, argued it was a genuine record from the First Jewish-Roman War in 70 CE, when the temple was destroyed. But doubts linger. The copper's purity, tested at 99%, suggests it was meant to endure, not dissolve like fleeting myths. The enigma deepens with contradictions. Some locations mention aqueducts or tombs that match known sites, yet searches yield only sand and stone. Picture the sun-baked earth cracking underfoot, the heat blurring visions of phantom riches. If this is true, it changes everything we know about the fall of Jerusalem, implying a desperate bid to safeguard holy treasures from Roman legions. Skeptics dismiss it bluntly. It's folklore, a hoax, not worth the effort. Their voices echo with certainty. But then, why the copper? Why not fragile parchment for a mere fantasy? That crack in their armor keeps the mystery alive, drawing us deeper into the shadows of history. The Copper Scroll tantalizes with promises of lost treasures and ancient secrets, yet it remains an unsolved puzzle after all these years. But to truly understand this enigma, we must journey back to the turbulent era that birthed it. What events in the 1st century could have led to such a desperate act of concealment? Welcome back to Unexplained History. We've teased the mystery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but to truly understand their secrets, we must step back in time. Picture a land on the brink of catastrophe, Judea, in the year 70 CE, where Roman iron fists clashed with unyielding faith. Let's dive into the world before the storm. Imagine the sun-baked stones of Jerusalem, where the air shimmers with heat and the scent of incense from the Second Temple. This was Judea under Roman rule, a powder keg of tension in 70 CE. The Roman Empire, led by Emperor Vespasian, had imposed heavy taxes and cultural suppression on the Jewish people since their conquest in 63 BCE by Pompey. Streets bustled with merchants hawking spices and silks, but beneath the commerce lurked resentment. Whispers of rebellion echoed in the shadows of colonnades. The Second Temple stood as the heart of Jewish life, rebuilt after the Babylonian destruction in 586 BCE, a massive complex covering 35 acres. Pilgrims from afar flocked there for festivals like Passover, offering sacrifices amid the clamor of bleeding animals and chanting priests. Yet Roman soldiers patrolled the walls, their sandals thudding like a constant threat. This is the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable. The fragile balance where devotion met domination, setting the stage for inevitable conflict. Beyond the city's clamor, the Judean wilderness stretched like a barren sea of rock and dust, where the wind howled through wadis and the sun scorched the earth. Here, in this harsh expanse near the Dead Sea, communities sought refuge from corruption. Qumran, a remote settlement established around 100 BCE, housed a sect often linked to the Essenes, ascetic Jews who rejected the temple's perceived impurities. They lived in simple stone structures, sharing meals of dates and barley, and devoted days to copying sacred texts on parchment. The air carried the tang of salt from the nearby sea, and nights were lit by flickering oil lamps as scribes meticulously inked prophecies of apocalypse. Socially, Judea simmered with divisions. Pharisees debating laws in synagogues, Sadducees wielding power in the temple, and zealots plotting uprisings. Religious fervor intensified with messianic expectations, fueled by texts like those hidden in Qumran's caves. Roman procurators, such as Pontius Pilate decades earlier, had crucified dissenters, heightening the paranoia. Life pulsed with the rhythm of prayers at dawn, but fear lingered. A single spark could ignite total war. In Qumran, the community prepared for end times, storing scrolls in clay jars within 11 caves discovered between 1947 and 1956. These texts included the oldest known copies of the Hebrew Bible, dating back to 250 BCE, and sectarian writings like the Community Rule, outlining strict purity rituals. The psychological reality was one of isolation and vigilance. Members bathed in ritual pools, avoiding outsiders, convinced that a final battle between light and darkness loomed. Culturally, this era blended Hellenistic influences with Jewish tradition, evident in mosaics and coins bearing Roman eagles. But tensions boiled over. In 66 CE, the Great Revolt began when Jews overthrew Roman garrisons. Vespasian's son, Titus, would lead the siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE, resulting in the temple's destruction and the deaths of over 1 million people, according to historian Flavius Josephus. If this Qumran connection to the scrolls is true, it changes everything about how we view ancient prophecies surviving amid chaos. The wilderness hid secrets that outlasted empires, whispering of faith's endurance in the face of ruin. That paints a vivid picture of a world teetering on the edge, where faith and empire collided in the shadow of the Second Temple. But what ignited the spark that brought Rome's wrath upon Jerusalem? Join us next as we uncover the first major event in this explosive timeline. We've set the stage in the ancient lands near the Dead Sea, where history hides in shadowed caves. But now, the real drama unfolds. On a fateful day in 1952, archaeologists would stumble upon something that defies explanation. This is where the incident begins, the discovery that sparked an enduring mystery. Imagine the sun-baked hills of Qumran, where the air shimmers with heat and the scent of dry earth clings to everything. It was March 14, 1952, and a team of archaeologists from the American Schools of Oriental Research and the École biblique et archéologique française were deep into systematic excavations. They had already uncovered fragments of ancient manuscripts in nearby caves, but Cave 3, a narrow, jagged opening in the limestone cliffs, promised more. The diggers worked methodically, their tools scraping against rock in the dim light of lanterns, dust motes dancing in the beams. This is the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable, for what they found wasn't parchment, but something far more resilient and enigmatic. The team, led by figures like Roland Deveau, pushed deeper into the cave's recesses, where the temperature dropped and the silence grew oppressive. Echoes of chisels and brushes filled the space, mingling with the faint drip of moisture from unseen cracks. They sifted through layers of debris, pottery shards, remnants of 2,000-year-old lives, accumulated over centuries. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Every scoop of earth could reveal a treasure from the time of the Essenes, the ancient Jewish sect believed to have hidden scrolls here. Sweat stung their eyes, and the metallic tang of exposed minerals hung heavy, but they pressed on, driven by the thrill of unearthing history. At the back of Cave 3, far from the entrance where daylight barely penetrated, one excavator's trowel struck something unusual. A dull thud against metal. Hearts raced as they cleared away the sediment, revealing 2 rolled sheets of corroded copper, green with oxidation and etched with mysterious engravings. These weren't delicate papyrus scrolls. They were sturdy, hammered thin, and tightly coiled, measuring about 30 centimeters in length and weighing several kilograms each. The team paused, tools hovering, as the reality sank in. This was no ordinary find. Whispers echoed off the walls, a mix of excitement and bewilderment, as fingers traced the faint inscriptions visible through the patina. The copper sheets showed signs of deliberate concealment, buried beneath the cave floor in a spot that had remained undisturbed for millennia. Initial inspections revealed Hebrew script punched into the metal, listing what appeared to be treasures and locations. 60 sites mentioning tons of gold and silver. The team's reactions were electric. Some laughed in disbelief, others stood silent, pondering the implications. Dust caked their hands, and the cool, musty air seemed to thicken with possibility. If this is true, it changes everything we know about ancient Jewish treasures, potentially rewriting history with tales of hidden wealth from the Second Temple period. The discovery of the copper scroll in Qumran Cave 3 marked the spark of a mystery that would captivate the world. From corroded metal emerged hints of unimaginable riches, but the real question lingers. What happened next as the event escalated and experts tried to unravel its secrets? Welcome back to Unexplained History. We've just uncovered the initial discovery of the copper scroll in the dusty caves of Qumran. But what happens when scholars finally unroll this ancient enigma? Things get chaotic. The mystery escalates into high strangeness, baffling experts and igniting wild speculations. Let's dive in. Picture this. It's 1955, in a dimly lit lab at Manchester College of Technology. The air hums with the whir of machinery and the sharp scent of metal. Scholars huddle around the fragile copper scroll, unearthed from Cave 3 in Qumran 3 years prior. This isn't like the other Dead Sea Scrolls, papyrus and parchment that could be carefully unrolled. No, this one is oxidized copper, rolled tight and brittle. One wrong move, and it crumbles to dust. Led by archaeologist John Marco Allegro, the team decides on a radical approach, slicing it open with a fine saw. The process is painstaking. Each cut sends sparks flying, the metal resisting like a sealed vault from antiquity. As the sheets are finally pried apart in 1956, excitement builds. But frustration mounts too. The text is etched in reverse, like a mirror image, punched from the back. Scholars squint through magnifiers, piecing together Hebrew letters amid the corrosion. This is the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable. It's not a religious text like the others. Instead, it lists 64 hidden caches of treasure, staggering amounts of gold and silver, totaling over 4,600 talents, worth billions today. The locations are cryptic. In the ruin which is in the valley of Achor, under the steppes. Hidden in cisterns, tombs and caves around Jerusalem and Qumran. The tension is palpable. Is this a real treasure map from the Second Temple period, around 68 AD? Speculation erupts like a storm. Some argue it's temple treasure, squirreled away before the Roman siege in 70 AD. Others dismiss it as fantasy. The quantities are too vast, the descriptions too vague. Yet the scroll's unique style, with its dry inventory tone, baffles them. No mystical prophecies here, just coordinates and weights. Researchers pace the labs, debates turning heated under fluorescent lights. The excitement mixes with doubt. expeditions in the 1960s, like Allegro's own digs in the Judean desert, yield nothing but empty holes and echoing disappointments. Dust clings to their clothes, sweat stings their eyes, as shovels hit rock again and again. Fast forward to the 2000s, and the mystery reignites. Reported digs in Qumran uncover artifacts that some researchers link to the scroll, pottery shards, perhaps from the era of hiding. But official excavations in Jerusalem, like those near the Temple Mount in 2007, face political turmoil and unresolved proposals. Permits are denied, sites remain untouched. The frustration boils over. Imagine teams standing at the edge of a potential site, tools ready, but bureaucracy halts them. If this is true, it changes everything about biblical history, rewriting the fate of lost temple riches. Yet skeptics remain dismissive. It's a hoax, pure fiction, no evidence stands. But then a crack appears. Why the copper, if not to preserve something vital? The enigma persists, tense and unresolved. The Copper Scrolls revelations have left scholars chasing shadows for decades, with treasures that might rewrite history still buried in mystery. But who are the pivotal players driving this quest? Who dared to cut the scroll and spark the hunt? What drove John Marco Allegro and his contemporaries to challenge the unknown? Welcome back to Unexplained History. We've just explored the wild escalation of events surrounding the Copper Scrolls discovery. Now, let's meet the key players who shaped this enigma, the scholars, adventurers, and skeptics whose passions and disputes have kept the mystery alive for decades. Their stories are as tangled as the scroll itself. Picture this: the dusty caves of Qumran in 1952, where a French Dominican priest named Roland de Vaux commands the scene like a general in a holy war. His vivid trait? A towering, charismatic figure blending faith and science, his robes dusted with the sands of ancient Judea. De Vaux's concrete contribution was leading the excavation team at Qumran, overseeing the digs that unearthed the Dead Sea Scrolls, including the enigmatic Copper Scroll from Cave 3. But controversy swirled around his methods. Critics accused him of letting religious biases skew interpretations, dismissing alternative theories outright. This links him directly to the central mystery. Without De Vaux's leadership, the scroll's treasure list might have remained buried forever, its secrets locked in the earth. Nearby, working under the harsh sun, was Henri de Contenson, a meticulous field archaeologist whose hands sifted through layers of history. De Contenson's vivid trait was his unyielding precision, eyes sharp, as he mapped every shard and stone in the Qumran caves during the 1950s excavations. His key contribution? Serving as the on-site digger who helped uncover artifacts in Cave 3, including the two halves of the Copper Scroll found on March 20, 1952. Controversy arose from disputes over site dating. Some argued his reports downplayed evidence of later occupations. He ties to the mystery by providing the raw discoveries that fueled decades of debate over the scroll's authenticity and origins. This is the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable. If de Contenson's findings are off by even a century, the entire timeline of the treasure crumbles. Then, there's Joseph T. Mielek, the Polish priest-linguist whose work brought the scroll's words to light. Mielek's vivid trait was his scholarly intensity, poring over ancient scripts in dim library rooms filled with the scent of aged metal and ink. His concrete contribution came in 1956 with the early transcription and French translation of the Copper Scroll, deciphering its list of 64 treasure locations holding tons of gold and silver. Yet controversy dogged him. Rivals claimed his translations were too literal, missing hidden allegories. This connects him to the core puzzle. Mielek's version framed the scroll as a real treasure map from the Jewish-Roman War era, sparking endless hunts. Enter John Marco Allegro, the British philologist whose bold ideas shook the establishment. Allegro's vivid trait was his maverick spirit, a whirlwind of controversy challenging sacred norms amid the echo of academic halls. His contribution? In the 1960s, he published provocative interpretations of the Dead Sea Scrolls, including theories that the Copper Scroll hid Essene temple treasures. The dispute? His radical views, like linking scrolls to early Christianity, led to public feuds and accusations of sensationalism. He links to the mystery by insisting the scroll's riches were real and recoverable, inspiring modern seekers despite scholarly scorn. Skeptics dismissed it outright. Not a treasure map, just folklore. But one crack appears. If Allegro's coordinates match undiscovered sites, their certainty falters. Shifting to later voices, Emile Puech offered fresh doubts. Puech, a French paleographer with a persistent analytical gaze fixed on faded inscriptions, contributed alternate theories in the 1990s, proposing the scroll as an inventory of temple assets hidden during the 70 AD siege of Jerusalem. Controversy stemmed from his clashes with mainstream views, arguing for symbolic rather than literal treasures. This ties him to the enigma. Puech's ideas suggest the scroll encodes spiritual wealth, not gold, altering its perceived value. If this is true, it changes everything, turning fortune hunters into fools chasing metaphors. Finally, adventurers like Vendyl Jones and Jim Barfield took the hunt into the desert. Jones, an American explorer with a vivid trait of rugged determination, sweat-soaked under the Judean sun, led treasure hunting expeditions in the 1980s based on the scroll's clues, claiming to find anointing oil in 1988. Controversy. His digs were unlicensed and finds disputed as modern fakes. He connects by embodying the scroll's allure, seeking lost Ark relics. Similarly, Jim Barfield, a former arson investigator turned sleuth, used satellite imagery in the 2000s to pinpoint sites founding the Copper Scroll project. His trait, methodical persistence amid dusty maps and flickering screens. Contribution, proposed new locations like near Qumran. Dispute, authorities halted his digs for lacking permits. Barfield links by insisting the treasures remain hidden, fueling ongoing intrigue. From priestly excavators to daring treasure hunters, these figures have woven a web of discovery, debate, and daring around the Copper Scroll. Their clashing visions keep the mystery burning. But what happens when official investigators step in to unravel the truth? Could their probes finally decode the scroll's secrets, or bury them deeper? We've met the key players in this ancient enigma. Now, let's turn to the official side of things, the investigations that tried to uncover the truth behind the Copper Scroll's hidden treasures. This is the procedural backbone where archaeology meets bureaucracy. Stay with us as we dive into the dry facts of discovery and delay. Picture this, the arid hills of Qumran in 1952, where Bedouin shepherds stumbled upon Cave 3, revealing the enigmatic Copper Scroll. The air hangs heavy with dust, the metallic tang of oxidized copper faint but persistent. Official excavations began under strict protocols led by the Jordanian Department of Antiquities. Teams methodically mapped the site using grid systems to document every fragment. By 1953, the scroll was unrolled at the College of Technology in Manchester, England, a process involving careful cutting to avoid further damage. This is the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable. The scroll's text described 64 locations of buried gold and silver, totaling over 4,600 talents. Yet no treasures were found in initial surveys. Publication of early translations followed in 1960, spearheaded by Joseph Millick, who provided a French edition with commentary. The dry pages of academic journals outline the scroll's unique script, etched rather than inked, suggesting it was a practical inventory. Regulatory oversight shifted in 1967 when Israel captured the West Bank, placing authority under the Israel Antiquities Authority, or IAA. Excavation permits became mandatory, requiring environmental impact assessments and security clearances. In the controlled environment of IAA labs, fragments were conserved using humidity chambers to prevent corrosion, the faint hum of equipment underscoring the meticulous care. Controversies erupted in the early 2000s when private expeditions sought permits for digs in the Judean desert. One such attempt in 2003, led by an American team, was halted by the IAA due to insufficient archaeological credentials and potential site damage. The rocky terrain, prone to flash floods, added safety concerns. Excavators faced crumbling ledges and extreme heat that parched throats and blurred vision. Bureaucratic hurdles included lengthy reviews by the civil administration, delaying projects for months. Despite this, a 2006 survey using ground-penetrating radar at Qumran identified anomalies, but excavations were paused amid disputes over land rights. Progress in recovering caches remained slow, with only minor artifacts like pottery shards unearthed in follow-up digs. The IAA enforced a policy of non-destructive methods, prioritizing photogrammetry and 3D modeling over invasive digging. By 2010, renewed efforts were again stalled by geopolitical tensions, leaving equipment idle under the relentless sun, canvas tents flapping in the wind. Some researchers argue the treasures may never have existed, but others point to untranslated clues in the scroll. If this is true, it changes everything about Essene wealth and ancient hiding practices, a revelation buried under layers of red tape and skepticism. The official investigations paint a picture of caution and complexity, where every step is measured against history and law. But not everyone buys the straightforward explanations. What if the skeptics are right, and this is all just an elaborate ancient hoax? We've delved into the shadowy investigations surrounding the Copper Scroll, unearthing clues that tantalize the imagination. But what if all this excitement is built on a foundation of sand? In this segment, we turn a rational eye to the skeptics' view. They argue the treasure might never have existed at all, or if it did, it's lost to logic and time. Let's dissect the doubts. Picture this: a dusty archive room, shelves groaning under ancient texts, where scholars pore over the Copper Scroll's riddles with furrowed brows and sharpened pencils. The air hums with the quiet rustle of pages, the faint scent of aged metal lingering like a forgotten secret. Here, skepticism reigns. The scroll, discovered in 1952 among the Dead Sea Scrolls in Qumran Cave 3, lists 64 locations of hidden treasures totaling over 4,600 talents of gold and silver. That's roughly 200 tons of precious metals. Impressive? Skeptics say no. It's incomplete. No map, no key, just cryptic directions like "in the ruin which is in the valley of Achor." This is the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable. Without context, it's useless. A puzzle missing half its pieces. Consider the scroll's material: copper, etched with a chisel in the 1st century CE during the Roman siege of Jerusalem. Durable, yes, but skeptics point out corrosion has erased parts over 2,000 years. Details faded, locations blurred. Some researchers argue it was never meant to be a literal guide, perhaps symbolic, a religious allegory for spiritual wealth, not earthly gold. The temple treasures? Mere metaphors for faith lost in exile. Searches since the 1950s, including excavations by John Allegro in 1960, yielded nothing. No jars, no coins, just sand and disappointment. The text's Hebrew is peculiar, mixing styles, suggesting it's not a straightforward record. Misdirection? Bait for Roman looters. Short sentences drive the point. It's a trap, not treasure. Feel the weight of decades pressing down, like the heavy silence in those Qumran caves, where echoes of ancient footsteps have long faded. Why no finds? Lost context reigns supreme. The Essenes, possible authors, hid their writings during the First Jewish-Roman War in 66-73 CE. But wars destroy, earthquakes bury, time erodes. If this is true, it changes everything. The scroll becomes a relic of desperation, not divination. Skeptics dismiss wild claims. No evidence of vast wealth. Temple records show no such hoard. Quantities exaggerated? 58 talents of gold in one spot alone. Implausible logistics for a besieged people. Declarative and sharp. It's fantasy or fraud. Yet, a crack appears. Infrared scans in 1996 revealed hidden etchings, hinting at more layers. Could skeptics be missing something? The skeptics make a compelling case, grounding the Copper Scroll in rationality and explaining away the allure with logic's sharp blade. No treasure found, no mysteries solved, just echoes of the past. But what if the rational eye misses the shadows where the paranormal lurks? Could there be supernatural forces at play, guarding secrets beyond science? Next, we explore those chilling theories. we've just heard the skeptic's take. Logical, grounded, but perhaps a bit too tidy. Now, let's step into the shadows of possibility. What if the Copper Scroll isn't just an ancient inventory, but a map to secrets that could rewrite history? Join me as we explore the believer's side into the unknown. Imagine the dim torchlight flickering in hidden caves near Qumran, the air heavy with dust and urgency. It's the 1st century AD, and Jerusalem is on the brink of destruction by Roman legions. Priests of the Second Temple, sensing the end, hammer out a desperate message on copper, not fragile parchment, but enduring metal. This scroll, discovered in 1952 among the Dead Sea Scrolls, lists 64 locations hiding vast treasures, gold, silver, ritual vessels, totaling over 4,600 talents, a fortune worth billions today. But here's the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable. It's written in a cryptic code, with locations like in the tomb of the old washerwoman's son, or under the western corner of the courtyard. If this was an emergency backup for temple treasures hidden before the Roman conquest in 70 AD, it changes everything about what was lost and what might still be found. The scroll's metallic form whispers of permanence, etched with a mishmash of Hebrew, Greek letters, and mysterious symbols. Some believers speculate it points to a lost second archive, a companion document that would decode these riddles, perhaps hidden separately to thwart thieves. Feel the chill of conspiracy. Claims abound that this decoder was suppressed by ancient sects or modern institutions, guarding truths too powerful for the world. Vendyl Jones, an American archaeologist inspired by the scroll, led expeditions in the 1980s and 1990s, digging in Qumran caves and claiming to find traces of temple incense. His pursuits, though controversial, fueled the allure of secret knowledge, drawing adventurers who sense the desert sands still hide fortunes tied to biblical prophecies. Echoes of footsteps in forgotten tunnels, the metallic tang of ancient wealth lingering in the dry air. Why encode such detail if not to protect something monumental? Believers argue the scroll describes not just gold, but esoteric items, perhaps scrolls of forbidden wisdom or artifacts from Solomon's era. Some researchers point to the 64 sites scattered across Judea as evidence of a deliberate network hidden by the Essenes or Zealots during the revolt. The frustration builds. Expeditions like those in the Cave of Letters in 1960 uncovered related artifacts but no treasure, leading to theories of institutional control, governments or religious bodies suppressing finds to maintain historical narratives. In the quiet hush of moonlit ruins, the mystery deepens. Treasure hunters persist, drawn by the scroll's promise of 160 tons of silver and gold, equivalents calculated by experts like Robert Eisenman. Yet no hoard has surfaced, sparking beliefs that the puzzle is deliberately unsolvable, a safeguard for secrets that could upend religious doctrines or reveal lost technologies. If this is true, it changes our understanding of ancient power structures, suggesting a hidden hand still at work today. The allure persists. Whispers of curses on those who seek too deeply, or divine protection over truths not meant for our time. These theories pull us into a world where history hides its greatest prizes. The Copper Scroll challenges us to question what we know or think we know. But beyond the speculation, what enduring mark has this enigma left on our culture? As we wrap up our exploration of the theories surrounding the Copper Scroll, it's time to reflect on its lasting impact. This ancient artifact isn't just a relic of the past. It's a living mystery that continues to captivate the world today. Let's delve into the aftermath, where history meets modern obsession. Imagine standing in the dim glow of a museum display case, the Copper Scroll's etched surface whispering secrets from 2,000 years ago. Its legacy endures, fueling a fire in the hearts of treasure hunters who still scan the Judean hills for hidden riches. Discovered in 1952 among the Dead Sea Scrolls, this unique copper artifact lists 64 locations of buried treasures, totaling over 4,600 talents of gold and silver, a fortune that, if real, would be worth billions today. This is the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable, for if even a fraction exists, it could rewrite economic histories of ancient Judea. The air in those arid caves feels charged with possibility, dust motes dancing in flashlight beams as modern adventurers echo the footsteps of ancient guardians. Scholars pore over translations in hushed libraries, debating whether the scroll describes temple treasures hidden from Roman invaders in 70 CE. Some researchers argue it's a genuine map, pointing to sites like the Valley of Achor or beneath Jerusalem's Temple Mount. Partial excavations in Jerusalem during the 1960s uncovered ancient tunnels, but political tensions halted deeper digs, leaving caches potentially undisturbed. The scent of aged parchment mixes with the sterile hum of digital scanners as experts use infrared imaging to reveal faded inscriptions. Yet skeptics dismiss it firmly. It's fiction, a hoax, no treasures found. But then, one crack emerges in their certainty. Why craft such a detailed list on expensive copper if it were mere fantasy? The scroll's influence ripples into popular culture, inspiring novels like those imagining Indiana Jones-style quests and documentaries that dramatize moonlit searches in Qumran's rugged terrain. Treasure hunters, armed with metal detectors and GPS, have ventured into the Dead Sea region since the 1950s, unearthing fragments of pottery, but never the promised hoards. Ongoing debates rage in academic journals, with some claiming the treasures were looted centuries ago, while others insist they're still hidden, protected by clever misdirections in the text. Feel the weight of unresolved questions, like a heavy fog settling over the desert sands at dusk, where echoes of ancient rituals linger in the wind. This enigma connects us profoundly to human history, our eternal fascination with hidden treasures, from pirate maps to lost cities. In modern times, expeditions continue quietly, with permits for surveys in Israel since 2000, yet no major discoveries reported. If this is true, it changes everything, proving that ancient warnings of peril might still guard unimaginable wealth. The Copper Scroll remains a bridge between eras, its mysteries unresolved, inviting us to ponder what other secrets lie buried, waiting for the right seeker to unearth them. The Copper Scroll's legacy is a testament to our enduring quest for hidden truths, blending ancient enigma with contemporary intrigue. But as we reflect on this aftermath, one question lingers. What final conclusions can we draw from such a tantalizing puzzle? As we draw this episode to a close, let's linger on the enigmas that refuse to fade. The copper scroll, an ancient relic etched in metal, defying the sands of time. What secrets does it truly guard? Join me in these final thoughts, where history whispers its unanswered questions. Imagine the dim glow of a lantern flickering over rusted copper in the caves of Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were unearthed in 1947. This isn't just any artifact, it's a practical inventory, listing 64 locations of hidden treasures, gold, silver, totaling over 4,600 talents, a fortune worth billions today. Yet its language is cryptic, laced with misspellings and obscure references, as if deliberately veiled. The air in those arid caverns carries the weight of millennia, dust motes dancing in the faint light, evoking a sense of forbidden knowledge, just out of reach. This is the detail that makes scholars uncomfortable. If it's merely a fantasy, why inscribe it on durable copper instead of fragile parchment? Decades of expeditions, from John Allegro's digs in the 1950s to modern radar scans, have yielded nothing but echoes. Feel the frustration in the blistering Judean sun, where archaeologists sift through layers of earth, each shovel strike a question mark. The scroll mentions sites like the Valley of Achor and hidden vaults under Jerusalem's Temple Mount, but political tensions and sacred ground halt deeper probes. One concrete claim stands out. Item 3 describes 65 gold ingots buried in a pit near Jericho, yet searches in 1960 by a Jordanian team found only empty holes. The mystery endures. Was the treasure plundered by Romans in 70 AD or never real at all? Some researchers argue it's a symbolic text, encoding spiritual riches, but the metallic medium suggests otherwise. Lost knowledge haunts us here, the limits of archaeology laid bare in the unforgiving desert winds that erode stone and hope alike. Ponder the echoes of ancient scribes, their hands hammering words into eternity, perhaps to preserve wealth from invading armies or to bury truths too dangerous for the light. The sensory sting of salt from the Dead Sea lingers, a reminder of preservation and decay intertwined. If this treasure exists, untouched for 2,000 years, it changes everything, rewriting histories of wealth, power, and faith in the ancient world. But maybe some secrets are meant to remain buried, guarding against the greed that time cannot temper. In this philosophical twilight, we confront the void. What other wisdoms have vanished into the earth, and do we dare unearth them? These haunting questions leave us wondering, is the real treasure the mystery itself? What forgotten enigmas will we uncover next? That concludes our investigation into this mystery. I'm Tom McKenzie. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. And remember to visit unexplained.co for the photos we discussed today. Until next time, keep looking for the truth.